So I have an announcement that I wanted to share with you all. Some of you were here, I think it was last week when we got the audit reports, and there were some audit findings, and what I did was we looked through the audit findings, and what we found is that some of them are duplicates, things that have happened year after year. And one of the things that concerns me most is around how we're tracking our grants and how we're making sure that we're counting them. And this is actually the first single audit completed since I became mayor. And so, as I've always said, one of the things I want to do is be transparent, but more importantly, to make sure that we don't have these same kind of repeat findings next year. So I've asked my chief of staff to take on a role to, one, look at the audit findings to see how we become more transparent and track these grants specifically. I want to make sure, again, that we don't have repeat findings. And I'd also want to make sure that when we receive these grants, that they end when they're supposed to end, and that people don't become a part of the city's budget, costing the city additional dollars. The other thing I think that was pointed out in the audit was on in our water department, how we are not able to meet our MBE, WBE requirement. So we want to fix that as well. And there is some concern around our water department operationally, so we're taking a look at that. So I just wanted to make sure you all know that we are really going to take this seriously. Whenever we get a complete audit, I'm going to go back and look at the audit and look at the recommendations that are made by our auditors, but more importantly, assign responsibility to make sure that next year when we're looking at these audits that we don't come up with the same findings. Okay? Any questions?
I know I've asked before, but is there going to be any new audit of water bills and the water billing system? Because I know that specifically has not been targeted as far as audits gone since 2011, I think Luke and I were talking.
Well, we did have an audit of the water system, and there are some findings. What I want to look at is there's some issues that have not been addressed as it relates to the operations of the water department. And it's like if we're talking about increasing water bills, before we do any of that, I want to make sure that we're utilizing the revenue that we are capitalizing the water system to fix. And then I also want to know that when we've capitalized the water system and the water waste system, where are we in fixing the water system? How many mileage of pipes have we actually fixed? So I need to know all of that information, and so we're going to focus on that. Okay? All right. Wanted to talk a little bit about violence reduction. I know that you've heard that violence is down. Commissioner, join me.
Yes, ma'am.
So, slide one. Okay, there's slide one. Slide one in blue are homicides by week for 2018. We've had 3 weeks in 2018 where homicides were as low or lower than they've been in 3 years. Why to date, homicides are down some 25%. Let me just say, and we'll talk a little bit about, why we think we're here, but more importantly, how much further we have to go. Slide two is for the first quarter of 2018. It gives you the total violence crime is down by 19%, total property crime is down by 20%, and that's in compared to last year. Slide three. Status update of key violence reduction initiatives. And these are the things that that we are doing. Safe Streets in our budget. And while we've gone to the state for some additional dollars, we have actually put Safe Streets to expand it to 10 different areas in the city. We put that in our budget because, again, that was our commitment to make sure that we continue this effort. And then ROCA will be launching July 1. This is the focus on 17 to 24-year-olds. And then our technology expansion, City Watch expansion, which includes the gunshot detection, license plate readers, mobile computers. Implementation is underway. Are we done with that yet?
We have 258 cars currently that are equipped with the mobile data terminals.
Okay. And then in the FY19 budget, we have included the hiring of 100 more police officers. That is inside of our budget. I think you all know that 2015, 2016, and even 2017, those positions were frozen. And so we didn't hire. We actually had close to about, if you looked at what we actually have on the ground, a little less than 2,000 when you take in consideration the 300 or 400 that are on sick leave or whatever those other issues might be. And so this year, last year, toward the end of the year was the first year we actually passed the attrition rate. And so we assumed that we will continue to grow the police department. We also slowed down our attrition rate. We were losing, when I first came in, 20 to 25 police officers a month. We're now down to about 14. We're setting up a number of things, and I'll let the commissioner talk a little bit about some of the technology things that we're doing. But we've really focused on how do we attract more officers in the city. We've got an apprentice program that we're looking at. We're also looking at expanding our cadet program as well. And then I also want to thank all of the various, and I think you have a list of these are all the groups that are involved in the Call to Action group that meets here twice a month. We attribute some of our success to their efforts as well. Everybody, including Ceasefire, Baltimore Brothers, Community Mediation. I think I mentioned to you all that we've gone out into the community, gone door to door after having mediation training, and talk with residents about some of the problems that they saw facing the city. And then we'd come back with the various services that were being asked for by the community. Mostly what we found, unemployment, a big issue. We also found wanting records expungement done, so we would bring those services back to neighborhoods, back to communities. We are working on a larger event around record expungement and really coordinating with the various law schools and so forth to help us out with that as well. So I think we're well on our way. We will have, we'll probably introduce sometime this month our other mobile unit that will go to the Office of Employment Development. I can't ever miss an opportunity to say that we have 16,500 young people who are in need of jobs this summer. I will be approaching many of your entities to ask them to be supportive as well, because we need to make sure that these young people work. You also know we opened up Shake and Bake just about a week and a half ago. We've got a number of camps that are going on this summer for our young people. We've also developed a year-round working program for our young people on Saturdays that work 4 hours a day. And we've also building up our entrepreneur program for young people. Last year, I think we invested in about 9 or 12 young people. We raised close to $200,000 to invest in some more young people this summer. Commissioner?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everybody. Like the mayor said, we're definitely trending in the direction we want. We have a lot of work to do. 2018 is a long way to go. We're happy with the first quarter of this year, but realize that we can do better. We put a lot of things in place. The district commanders really prepped for this first quarter, and they did a fantastic job along with the officers on the streets. We could not have done it without them, and I'm very grateful for the work that they do each and every day, working extended hours, working extended shifts on a regular basis. But you know there's 9 districts in the city. And you heard me talk about it earlier. I created a 10th district, and it's a mobile district. So it's actually that mobile command truck that we used to have for special events. So we attach resources to them. So for a perfect example is that we realized in 2017, and I talked to the mayor about it a lot, is that a lot of violence that we were seeing was associated with certain corridors throughout the city, whether east-west corridors or north-south corridors. So we specifically deploy the mobile command truck to that area. We have what's called a mobile metro team. It's 2 sergeants and 14 officers. They were handpicked. And I said it recently, but I'm going to say it again, is that all officers in specialized units will go through a polygraph examination upon entry to those units. But this unit right here, they really deploy on those major corridors that we're talking about. They deploy downtown, they deploy in the inner harbor area. They don't have the license plates readers yet, but within the next several weeks, a month or two, they will be fully deployed. So that's going to be a great asset in terms of fighting crime. But I'd just like to say that the Violent Reduction Initiative, it's a great concept, it's very innovative. We actually went this morning to Bonaparte and Aiken Street where we had the incident yesterday afternoon. Mm-hmm. What's ironic about it is that we actually talked about that very same area yesterday morning before it even occurred. So we know where the areas are that we need to strategically put resources, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're looking at areas, we're looking at data. We know that history repeats itself. We have conversations not just in the police department, but with the VRI. It's a whole public safety initiative that we do, where we're bringing everybody to the table to discuss whether it's environmental issues that we need to address, certainly community issues, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, and bridging the gap. And what I say, co-production policing, is asking them what they would like to see. And the other issue is really just operationally, what is it that the police department has to do? And when I say what we have to do is when we go in these areas, are we serving warrants that we do? Are we trying to address the narcotic trade? So we're very specific. We need community input in it. So we went to Aiken and Bonaparte today. Community came, they was happy to see us there. And we talked about trash, and we talked about lighting, and we talked about some problematic corner stores that we would like to see closed, mm-hmm. that attribute to the violence that we see in the city, mm-hmm. especially in the evening. So we're staying very much in tune as to what happens. We're looking at incidents, multiple incidents in the city. When it happens once, our intel folks are up on it, sharing information to the commanders, and the commanders in turn are sharing this information to the patrol officers. And then when there's a second incident in a 4-hour period, then there's another level or another type of deployment that we specifically do. So we're moving, we're looking at displacement. The next couple of weeks, actually the 1st of June, around that time, we have what's called the Strategic Decision Support Center. The mayor has it on the PowerPoint. But the Strategic Decision Support Center is going to be in the Eastern and the Western District. And historically, those two districts have led the city in crime over the past several years. So it's a fusion center. It's a fusion center inside those districts. And inside those districts, there's going to be crime analysts in there to direct the officers per shift, not per day, per shift. And it's telling them where to go. And there's going to be a crime forecasting software that's soon going to come along with the Strategic Decision Support Center. And the whole concept behind the crime forecasting software is to tell us where to go before the crime occurs. So if the patrol officer goes there and has to make an arrest, then it didn't work for us. It's preventive. So we're really excited. There's some other technology that's coming with it. So in both the Strategic Decision Support Centers, we'll have license plate readers on cars in the Eastern and the Western. That's going to feed into the center. We're going to have the CCTV cameras really focused, really looking at problematic areas. In addition to that, we're going to have the shot spotter. That's also coming. So that's sensors that's going to be deployed in East and West Baltimore. So it's 5 square miles in the Western, and it's 5 square miles in the Eastern. So collectively, obviously, 10 square miles. And we're really excited. We're really excited. The mayor's vision for us with technology and introducing it to the police department, we're really encouraged as we move forward. We know it's going to be a challenge. We know the weather's getting warm. The days are a little bit longer. We're prepping. We're already prepping for June and July.
One thing I wanted to add was when we were walking this morning, one of the things that the community pointed out were stores that used to be homes that were transformed into what we call these neighborhood stores, mini marts, and what we found is that many of them are troubling in the sense that in certain areas, and this is not all corner stores and not all of the stores, but there are stores that have been transformed into businesses that have become nuisances in communities. So I want to take a moment to thank Mary Pat Clark, who passed legislation that said that if a store has been closed for a period of time, it does not have to be transformed, it can be transformed back into a home or whatever best fits the needs of that community. I think in the long run that will make a difference in some of these neighborhoods that have been bombarded by, it's like how many mini marts can you have in one block? How many taverns can you have in one neighborhood? And while we are transforming some of that, as I think you know, by 2019, about 159 bars or so forth, liquor stores will close or transform. I think looking at what we do with some of these corner stores is going to be important to the communities as well.
I have a question about
Sure.
the strategic decision support centers. Are those the Sean Malinowski predictive policing
Yes.
Correct.
models? Could you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about what that involves, how they work?
So it's, again, it's 2 fusion centers, east side, west side. There's literally rooms. They have technology that's coming with it. The framework is set up, the TVs are set up, the monitors are set up, but there are going to be analysts in there along with a supervisor. And in years past, when officers would deploy on the streets, they'd have roll call, and in roll call it was just specific to what happened in the last 24 hours. This is really specific to what's going to happen on their shift. And the predictive analysis software creates these algorithms. And I got to make this very clear that the algorithms we're going to share. We're going to be completely transparent in terms of what those algorithms are. And the bottom line is that we need the community support in this. We're going to let them know exactly what it is, and it tells the police officer where to go. And included in the software, it literally tells them to be at this location for this duration. So they deploy there, they're there at that location for a specific time. Some of the software comes with actually something that they can download on their phones, and it's a countdown, and it actually tells them how long to be in that area. But don't get mistaken. If they need to leave that area, they certainly
I think some
can.
people hear this and they hear like Minority Report.
No.
predicting
So
the future kind of stuff.
let's go back to the conception
Sure.
of it. When we were looking, and I think I mentioned this a while back, when we're looking at model police departments around the country, and this is before I was sworn in as mayor, started looking at police departments around the country, who's reducing crime the best in this nation and sustaining the reduction. Los Angeles was actually that department. And so a discussion with the Department of Justice said, you need to go talk to Sean Malinowski. He was the person who created these centers. And in fact, by the time I was sworn in a couple months later, they were up in Chicago. The reduction in violence in Chicago has been attributed to these types of centers. And so we're modeling what we saw in LA, what is now happening in Chicago, and so we're modeling it in Baltimore. As I said early on, one of the things that we're looking at is best practices around the nation. What's working? What kind of technology should we be employing that can help us, along with the community engagement piece, along with creating a department that is engaged in the neighborhoods and in the community. What else can we provide to this police department, to our community, that will allow us to continue to reduce violence in our city?
So you talked about the license plate readers and the CCTV cameras, but you mentioned the third thing, the sensors. Could you give more detail on that?
So Shot Spotter.
Shot spotter.
So they're here now, Shot Spotter. Yeah, one word.
That's a brand name.
Is that
Yes,
the
it is.
brand name?
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Because there are imitators, or we should
Yeah.
say there are other brands.
yeah.
Because, like
So-
Kellogg's and Flakes.
Right.
So it's sensors, and it's going to be sensors deployed 5 square miles in the eastern and 5 square miles in the western district. And these sensors, when a gunshot goes off, it literally zeroes in on a specific location, and it tells the police officer where to go. So if you take a look at mistrust in the community, we've heard in the past, and it's still a concern to today, that police don't respond. Well, when there's a call for service for shots fired, communities are concerned. They're afraid of danger, and we want to deploy right away, and we want to deploy to the right area. So a lot of the data that ShotSpotter shared with us is that less than 20% of community calls the police to notify us about the gunshots. Yet 100% of the time, they know exactly where it is. So we need to be specific on where we deploy when we get those calls for service and not drive by.
Right.
So it's great. It's great for technology. It's going to put us in the right place. It's also going to give us the capability to see where those showcases may lay. And the community, just like we are, and like everybody in this room, we're tired of walking in certain communities and stepping on shell casings.
Right.
The community deserves better, and the mayor, she's mandated that we're going to be a 21st century police department, period. And technology is one thing that we're going to embrace.
So does ShotSpotter work kind of like bat ears work as far as sound?
Did you say
radar?
bat ears?
Bat ears, like they can pick up a lot of
Oh, okay.
sound. Like right now, I feel like I have bat ears on, but I pick up a lot of sound around a room.
Yeah, it triangulates the sound.
Yeah.
And
Right.
different sensors bounce off, and it triangulates the sound. It's able to differentiate between gunshot and
Right.
other muffler backfiring,
Right.
and but it sends a message. It sends an alert. It will send an alert to the Strategic Decision Support Center, and when they get it, they dispatch that to our police officers
Not
right
very
away.
exciting.
Is it
Correct.
also coordinated with the camera program?
Well, Jane, that's a good point. We're moving towards that. This is step one. Step two is to really get them in sync. However, within the Strategic Decision Support Center, the camera operators are going to be there. So we're really not missing a beat. They're both sitting side by side. So they're able to communicate and say, hey, listen, shots here, nearest camera here. Start taking a look at it.
How is staffing right now within the department?
Well, we're still short officers, but the good thing is that we have several academy classes in. So in between now and November, December of this year, we're probably going to add somewhere in the range of about 152 to 155 additional officers on the street. So we're excited about that. We have recently 11 scheduled recruitment events over the next 60 days or so. So again, we're excited about that. The mayor said it. We look at the attrition. It's down to 14 per month, but we're still trying to work to keep those officers in the door, keep them within the police department.
Commissioner, I don't know if you had talked about this, but apologies if you have, but there was talk of you getting an outside person to look at the Suter investigation.
Yes.
Has there been any progress on that? There's any plan right now?
Yes.
And any timeline?
Yes, there is. There is. So actually, sitting on my desk right now is the MOU, and I want to share in greater detail a little bit further the specific names, but I need to share. I brief the mayor completely on it. But what I can say is that it's going to be 2 former Baltimore City Police detectives, well respected. When I share the names, you'll understand what I'm saying. Well respected. And there's going to be a few other outside police leaders. I added up the years the other day of the 6 members on the panel, and I think it equated to 220 years of law enforcement experience. So hopefully within the next couple of days, we'll get everything in place, and in a week after that, I'll bring them here to Baltimore. So it's a meet and greet and kind of like give direction. But the mandate is for them to take a look at the case, come up with findings, and come up with recommendations.
Thank you.
Brandon Scott was quoted in the paper the other day saying that although we're having crime declines, he likened it to going from 0-16 to, as a football team, to 2-13 or whatever. What do you think about that? Is this just minimal progress, or how do you?
Let me be real clear. We started reducing violence in November.
Mhm.
So it dropped in November, dropped in December, dropped in January, February, March. And you're always going to have critics. Our goal is to reduce violence to its lowest possibility. And so we're completely focused not on individuals, but on the violence and the problem that the city's facing.
With the officers who've left the department or decided to, I don't know if you have a chance to speak with them before they leave, but are you hearing a difference in the reasoning?
Well,
And
we
if so,
do.
what is it?
Yeah, it ranges. It really does range, and a lot of times they decide to go on to other agencies a little bit closer to where they originally come from, for the most part. But we keep a pulse on that to figure out why. We try and fix that. I know at one point there was an issue of a lot of details. They have to work, but we're fixing all of that, making it more exciting for them. We're introducing we actually started a take-home car policy for officers that live in the city. Some other agencies have that, so we've already started that, and we're just trying to add on more innovative and creative ways to keep them here in the Baltimore City Police Department. We're tired of being a training ground, so we want to keep them here.
So last night, the consent decree monitors had one of their meetings, and one of the big issues that was brought up was about the Civilian Review Board doing their independent investigations of complaints about officers, and the Internal Affairs Office of Professional Responsibility doing investigations. I know you've been talking with the monitors about
Sure.
how those investigations should be or should go. Are you in favor of transferring those complaints to an independent arm like the Civilian Review Board for complaints, or would you be more in favor of some other compromise, and what would that look like?
Now, I'll tell you, I had a meeting yesterday, and I'm very much aware of the challenges surrounding that. I am right now looking at the possibility of when a case comes in and Internal Affairs investigates it and the Civilian Review Board investigates it, and after both findings come, to have another third party take a look at it. So I'm kind of weighing that option right now. But what I can say also to that is that we have a new chief of Internal Affairs coming in. He's going to start probably in another 3 weeks. However, the Deputy Commissioner who just came on the job, Deputy Commissioner Gary Tuggle, he's overseeing Internal Affairs. There is actually a new commander in Internal Affairs as well. We announced last week to Internal Affairs that all members in that unit, and we felt it was the best thing and the smartest thing to do was start the polygraph examinations within Internal Affairs. So we announced that last week to them. They're the first unit that's going to receive polygraph examinations, and then the other specialized units will follow suit right behind them.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you put the screen back up with the,
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of it. Do you want the?
Oh, let me conclude. Let me conclude. No more. Let me conclude by reminding us that this is the 50th anniversary of the death of Martin Luther King, and I thought I would share this with you all. The quote underneath the Statue of Liberty that says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your streaming shores, send these homeless tempests tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." I share that with you because I'm thinking about if Martin Luther King was here today, what would he say about all of the debate around DACA? Peace out.